Well, we are in the kitchen of the charity shop, which means should anyone come to the back door, or if anyone's above us, we're likely to get heard today. Oh well. Hi everyone, my name is Charlie, and today is the start of another reading vlog. Sunday got away from me. Again, everything started well. I'd taken a jigsaw home from the shop that needed checking. It was a big 500-piece one, as in the pieces are big, so it's generally quicker to do because you can see everything you need to see. And so me and my mother powered through that in the morning. We're done by about 11:15. I thought, great, good start to the day. I'll finish the Vicar of Bullhampton, I'll take Sal for a walk, I'll edit my reading vlog. I started encoding the files for my reading vlog, and they failed at my computer and I didn't know what to do. Took Sal for a walk, got home, made some soup, and my mum came downstairs and said, did I want to go for a walk with her to the pub? Just an hour or so before tea, and I thought, right, an hour there, come home, make tea, edit video, sorted. So we get to the pub, and immediately a dog sets on Sal. Thought, oh. And this is where I should have seen it as some sort of sign from the universe that we should sit elsewhere. But my mother goes and sits down in the corner. And I'm like, oh gosh. And the dog immediately sets on Sal. I'm like, no, we'll move. And the people are saying, no, we'll go. This is the one being an arsehole. And then my mother got to chatting to these people who were there. 3 hours we were at the pub. We didn't get home till 7. So video wasn't edited. I had tea, went for a bath. And then my mother says to me, because if you remember, I said last week how I wanted to watch Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and I mentioned this to my mother, and she said she hadn't seen it in a long while, so she could do with watching it as well. So anyway, at 10 o'clock last night, my mother says, can we put Bedknobs and Broomsticks on? Meanwhile, she's mildly inebriated, unconscious on the settee, and sleeps through the entire thing. And how come nobody had ever told me that this film had been restored and given 20 minutes extra footage? I anticipated only being sat there until about 11:20. I didn't get in bed till gone midnight because of how long this darn film actually is now. If you must know, apparently I haven't ever seen the entirety of Bedknobs and Broomsticks because my granddad had recorded the film onto a VHS tape from the television, and so there were occasional adverts, but what my granddad would do was he would stop recording when the adverts came on and then start recording again when the adverts had finished. But occasionally he would miss pressing record again, and so you'd miss bits of the film. Therefore there were giant swathes of this film that I had not previously seen. Still, I was glad to have watched it. I enjoyed it. It was like another film ticked off the list that I've wanted to rewatch. On Sundays, I remember when I was younger and how we would always go to my nan's house and we'd have dinner and we'd put a film on, or we'd watch whatever film was on the telly. There used to be a lot more variety of films on Sunday afternoons on the television, even though I'd waited until 10 o'clock at night to watch this one. And that meant that the Vicar of Bullhampton didn't get finished. So I listened to the audiobook as I came into work, and I realised that one of the things that I hate about the characters in this book is that Gilmore is an incel, and I'll have nothing more said about it than that, because the entire book he has been going on about Mary Lowther, about his persistence in loving her and how she ought to marry him because he keeps asking her. And then, like, just the resolution of this and the way that he believes he has a right to marry Lowther really annoys me. And the characters who are coming around and acting like Mary's a bad guy just because she doesn't want to flaming marry this man because she's in love with this other man and she's told him this all along. I get so incensed by this storyline, and I think that I shouldn't, because I think, you know, I'm applying modern sensibilities to a Victorian novel, but at the same time I'm recognising that that's one of the aspects that I really get annoyed by. Similarly, I got annoyed by everything going on with Dr. Thorne. Maybe Anthony Trollope just hated people called Mary, because remember Aunt Justice for Mary Thorne as well after what went on in Dr. Thorne. maybe I just hate the way that Anthony Trollope does love. He constantly talks about love and money, but I think that the Victorian idea of what love is completely different from what it is nowadays, and love and money are very much intertwined in the Victorian period. Regardless as to whether there is a romantic love there is very much a sense that the money is very much the be-all and end all regardless of what people do. I mean, you know, I've said this before, marry rich the first time and then beggar the person off and marry for love afterwards. If the two come together, fantastic, but if they don't worry about it. You can always divorce and hop on to the next one. I really got annoyed by that. I got annoyed by the treatment of Carrie Brattle in this book, and I know that Anthony Trollope was supposedly trying to change people's opinion in a certain way. Character behaviour and the thoughts of characters in this book I found incensing because they lacked common sense, and it just felt like everybody was awful. This book should have just been called The Vicar is Terrible. Everybody is terrible. Bullhampton is terrible. It's not a bad book by any means. I just hate every single person in the book. Everyone. The only good thing about this book was the murder aspect of it, and even that didn't last too long. We've just spent flaming 450 pages with flaming Gilmore getting all sad and pouty because somebody didn't love him. Anyway, in work today, off tomorrow, back in Wednesday, and then I've booked 2 days off, and I'm hoping that with Friday I'm hoping is going to be a day just to like strictly read. I'm also going to be sending Mistakes Mean Murder to Dane for editing this week. And yeah, I feel like that's a weight off my shoulders now. Now it's with the editor. It's off my back. And on Friday I want to have a day of reading. Of course I'm going to be reading throughout the week, be that reading physically or listening to an audiobook. I'm aware that I didn't fulfill my September TBR at all. I threw a few books in there that weren't supposed to be on there, and yeah, in fact I think I read 1 or 2 books off there. We're going to be reading a lot of Trollope this month, and I need the books that I read by him this month to be utterly fantastic. Otherwise I'm going to throw a fit. Anyway, my coffee's getting cold and my volunteers are going to be here soon. Saturday actually ended up being okay because one volunteer rang me up and said that they could come and do the till in the afternoon, which meant that although everybody had left by 3:45 and I was on my own to close up the shop, it did mean we could get some more stuff done that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to. So I'm calling that a success. But right now, let's start the week with coffee and breathe. That's probably a good idea. Let's do some gentle breathing exercises with us.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
At least the sun is out. So, a few things since last I spoke to you on Monday. Monday was not the busiest day at work, nor was Tuesday. I wasn't in on Tuesday, but we had torrential rain for those 2 days, and it has fed into the figures for the first few days of the week. I did not go out of the house on Tuesday because of the rain, and Sally just not like the rain. Every time we went to that back door for her to look outside, she looked at me like, you have got to be joking me, what's going on here? Couldn't walk her yesterday because I was in work, and after work finished I had poems and pints in the evening, which was fantastic. We had a guest poet, but I will speak more about that later. Because let's go back to the start of the day on Wednesday. If you remember, earlier in the year I got to work and one of the warning lights had come on my car. So I took it around to this garage and they sorted that problem out for me. I also booked it into my own garage, not my own garage, but the one that I regularly use in Macclesfield. They looked at it and they told me that the cost it would take to fix was going to be more than the car was worth. And I told you that, and some of you were kind enough to send me a bit of money to help me afford a car. And that was great, and I have been searching ever since to try and find a vehicle using money that I have saved, because ever since I got the car, I've always thought, well, you need to have enough money in the bank to fix it. So I've always kept savings behind and that sort of thing. And I mention this because I've been driving around for a few months. Certain issues have been alleviated with the car. I didn't pay to have it fixed because, as I say, it was going to cost more than the car was worth, but I thought as long as it lasts me until I'm able to find another vehicle, that's great. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. Yesterday, as I was driving to work, it became really difficult to shift gear. It was a bit dangerous. If I'm being honest, it was completely dangerous. I was mildly scared of what might happen because my car did not want to change gear. It was being really stiff and there was nowhere safe for me to stop without blocking an entire carriageway. And I thought, I just need to get to work. I was 3 minutes away from work and I thought, I just need to get into that car park. And once I'm in the car park, everything can be sorted. I get into the car park and there is a customer unloading her Range Rover. I mean, she's got tons of stuff in there and she's smiling at me as she's doing it. And I'm like, I'm not smiling. I'm not smiling because, one, this shop doesn't open until 9 o'clock. You didn't know anybody was going to turn up here, so you're ignoring all the signs saying don't leave your donations here. So you're lucky I'm not taking your stuff and throwing it directly into the skip. And as much as I knew this customer, I was just in the wrong sort of mood because of what was going on with my car. Obviously, I wasn't mean to the customer, I just didn't say anything. I left that to my volunteer who was also there. She leaves, I get into my car, I reverse my car, and it stops. That's it, it's not moving. And I reversed my car so that I could go into an actual car parking space because this woman had been blocking the spaces. So I quickly call over my volunteer, and when he gets in, it goes straight into first gear and he thinks, Charlie, what you're talking about is fine. He pulls into the space and has the same issue. Reverses out slightly because he's parked too close to his own car, and that's it. It won't go into gear, it's stopped. And he says, the clutch is gone. Thought, this is great. He said, can you push it? So I pushed my car into the space. He says, do you have like AA, RAC, do you have breakdown? And like, yeah, so I log on to my insurance at work. I find out who I need to contact. I contact them. They turn up at 11 o'clock and basically so much has gone wrong within my car. It's not unaffordable, but I don't want to spend all this money on a car that it might do this again, and also it's more money than the car is worth, and that's exponential now because I got told that it was going to be very expensive back in March, and then you've got this addition on top of it. And I said, that's not happening. And he's given me the phone number for a car dismantler who's going to come to the car park where I work, and I don't work in the car park. He's going to come to the car park of the place in which I work and just take the car. And I need to find a new vehicle. I've been looking, and the one that I've been looking at for ages is just like right at the top end of my price range, and I think that it's too expensive and I don't want to be forking out that much money. The search has become a bit more necessary, but my dad is saying not to rush into buying a car just to have a car, to wait and find something that will last me and is going to be worth the money I spend on it. So that's where I currently am. Weirdly, I did then go online this morning and message Congleton Library about returning there because I messaged them weeks ago and I hadn't. They responded weeks ago, and I finally got around to responding and asking when I could go and visit, because last night, so I got my mum to pick me up from work. I was just laughing with everybody and they couldn't believe I was taking it so well. I did turn around and ask anyone whether they had any petrol. I'd set fire to the car, call it a crime scene and get the police to take the car away, but you know, nobody, no takers. Somebody sent me a message saying, could I buy their car off them? And they wanted £20,000. And I don't just have that kind of money lying around. So that's not happening either. It doesn't matter anyway. I got home and somebody's already taken the place where I park. So yeah, clearly the universe was trying to tell me that car ain't coming back. I will find a vehicle, I'm certain of that. So, like I say, my mum picked me up. We came home and then very fast eating of food so that we could head out to Poems and Pints. And our guest poet this month was Ian Humphreys. Now, Ian was one of the co-editors of Butcher's Dog magazine that featured my poem Wool Gathering back in 2019, I think it was now. I mention it because it's one of only 2 publications I've ever managed to get a poem in. Ian was reading from his latest collection, which is Tormentil. Apparently, Tormentil is the yellow flower that can often be found on the moors. And he read from this, and sometimes it's just frustrating when people are really good at poetry, because it reminds me that I might not be, but one of the things that this does is its second poetry collection is that it discusses grief and the landscape. And as we all know, one of my favourite things to read about, one of my favourite topics is grief. Yeah, it was interesting to hear Ian read these last night, and I'm looking forward to reading the entire collection now. I also purchased a copy of No Net Ensnares Me, which is an anthology of prose poetry, which was edited by Ian and features prose poems from writers in the, I think it was West Yorkshire area, is all based around the Brontes, because this was from when Ian Humphreys was the writer in residence at Bronte Parsonage Museum in 2023 and 2024. Ian had taken these fragments that had been written by Emily Bronte to be made into longer works that never happened, and used one as the first line, one as the last line. Anyway, I don't know why I'm saying all this. Basically, I purchased this because today is National Poetry Day, and I told the writers group that we would be discussing prose poetry, and this just felt like a very serendipitous coincidence. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with them. I read one poem from Shepherd's Delight, and I read a new poem that I wrote yesterday at work. Well, I didn't write it at work. I printed it off at work. Just don't tell anybody. I just got a load of words in my head, and I don't know how this worked. I was calling it a collage of words, a collage of images that was just written in the poetic form, because otherwise it made no sense to me. Since I didn't know what to read next, I picked up the book that Charlie chose for me to read in the latter end of the year, but still, that video isn't out until next week. So I just realised there's no point me talking about that book now, other than to say, I tried reading this book earlier in the year, and I was like, ugh, no, maybe this isn't for me. And it is a book for me. I was trying to read it at the wrong time of year, because when I started reading it again, I was like, yeah, we're in the mood for this now. Mistakes Me Murder is now with Dane. I have sent him the first payment for the editing, so I just have to lie in wait. And people have been saying to me, what are you going to write next? I honestly don't know. Last night, having left Poems and Pints, I was feeling so reinvigorated for poetry, because it was such a fantastic night, and I do want to make some headway on the next collection. However, the poem that I wrote yesterday probably won't make it into that collection, because that collection is so suffused with spring and love and that sort of thing, and I don't know that this suits that, but it definitely suits this whole thing I'm trying at the moment in terms of the poetry writing, which is to remove myself. I think that in the first collection there's a lot of family in there, and there are still poems about me going back to childhood, not mentioning the farming as much, although there is a farming poem I wish to write, which I won't talk about now. I have written a few more stories in there and created fictional characters in the poems that I wrote for part of the collection, and now I want to create some more landscapes, some more images and collages. We'll see how things go. I might veer away from making it all about spring if I end up with more poems and just looking at the collection as a whole, as opposed to thinking Spring Fever, this is the title, that's what we're going to write. Having this new want to write poetry makes me wonder, do I go and write more poetry? I don't know. I don't know whether to just have a break for a bit, because I want to read some books. It's Victober. I chose some lengthy books this month. I find that it's difficult for me to move on to the next book when I still feel like I'm working on the other one, and Mistakes Me Murder isn't properly finished because I'm waiting for the edits on that. I could go back to one children's book, could go back to the middle grade I was writing earlier this year, could do charity shop. I talked about all this recently. I will see how I'm feeling, but right now, today's not a writing day. Despite the fact I've got the writers group, it's National Poetry Day, and I am going to be leading a workshop on prose poetry and discussing poetry. It's not like in my mind as strict writing, working towards the next collection. Today is about workshopping, and tomorrow is about whatever gets thrown at me tomorrow. We will see. For now, I've rambled on a bit too long for a vlog, and I'm already annoyed with myself, so I'm going to disappear and go about my day, I think. Well, I've just arrived to work to find out that we've changed the office chair again, which is kind of a shame because I preferred the other one. I like the way that the arms were at arm height. Anyway, it's Saturday and I'm just here to round things off. I've realised how much my hair is sticking out today. That's not fun. Anyway, yesterday my dad said to me that if I liked, then I could get into his Land Rover and he would drop me off at the other end of the towpath as he was on his way up to the field, which meant that Sally and I got a very nice long jaunt down the towpath. Although she does have a pack mentality, and when my dad dropped us off, her immediate thought was, we are losing a member of the pack, and wanted to run back to the road. So she had to spend the majority of the time on the lead, which is not a bad thing. And she actually walked quite well along some main roads, so it went better than I thought it was going to go. And at least she did get a walk this week. Well, she did get walked, but she's not had any sort of lengthy walk around anywhere because I've not had a vehicle to take her. I have to try and organise this scrap company to come for my car, but I haven't done it yet because I tried organising it through my phone and I don't think their website's compatible with that. When I got home yesterday, I started doing a Charles Dickens jigsaw that my brother got me for Christmas last year. It's called The World of Charles Dickens. Now, originally, I was going to do this in conjunction with the video I've got planned, my journey reading Charles Dickens, but I'm still editing that. So I listened to the beginning of the last Chronicle of Barset and I adore this. It's reignited what I like about Anthony Trollope. It's not the story of love versus money, although love is one of the aspects of this book between the vicar's daughter and this man who, for whatever reason, right now I'm forgetting their names. I knew that characters from the past Barsetshire books were going to appear in this book. I just didn't realise that they were all going to appear so quickly, especially we get some mention of characters from the Palliser series as well, but ain't got to that yet. And do I think I'm going to go to it directly after this? I don't. I think that I'm going to try and read more of his standalones. I haven't read The Claverings yet because that seemed a bit too similar of the Vicar of Bullhampton in plot, but I am going to try and get that read this month. And I have just organised with Katie of Books and Things as to when we're going to buddy read Mr Scarborough's Holiday. But yeah, I'm sure it's Holiday, or is it Mr Scarborough's Family? I can never remember. Either way, there's a book about Mr Scarborough, and I'm going to start reading it when I'm on holiday in Whitby, because that's just the type of person that I am. I read/listened to 150 pages of the last Chronicle of Barset yesterday, and I'm hoping to read some more this evening, and then get a good chunk done tomorrow, which is Sunday. That means that we finished one Anthony Trollope book this week, which was The Vicar of Bullhampton, and technically I finished that last week. So I'm going to try and work hard to get some more read in October. I don't think I'm going to be hitting 100 books read this year. I just don't. But for now, my mother's going to be back with coffee soon and my manager's going to be here. So what I want to say is, if you want to talk about anything I've talked about in this video, please feel free to do so in the comments. I hope that you've enjoyed this video because, until next time, that is all.